Hello. This Sunday, we'll be looking at the Ten Commandments as found in Exodus, these rules given to the Israelites by Moses. And we will be thinking about how important rules are for our lives. We think rules limit our freedom, but rules are very important and actually can enhance our freedom. And so we'll be looking at the freedom rules, as I call them, on Sunday as we look at the Ten Commandments. But to go along with rules, I thought we would look at the rule of Saint Benedict. Now, Benedict was a 6th century monk and abbot, and he laid down the rules for being a monk in a monastery. And we're going to read some of those rules, or at least one of the rules, and then hear an interpretation of the rule by Joan Chittister, who is a contemporary Benedictine. She is a prioress at a monastery. And here's the book that she published a few years ago, The Rule of Benedict. And we are going to read the rule regarding prayer. So this is what Benedict says in his rule. Whenever we want to ask a favor of someone powerful, we do it humbly and respectfully, for fear of presumption. How much more important, then, to lay our petitions before the God of all with the utmost humility and sincere devotion. We must know that God regards our purity of heart and tears of compunction, not our words. Prayers should therefore be short and pure, unless perhaps it is prolonged under the inspiration of divine grace. In community, however, prayer should always be brief. And when the prioress or abbot gives the signal, all should rise together. So that's what St. Benedict says in his rule, and here is what Joan Chittister says. The rabbis taught the first time a thing occurs in nature, it is called a miracle. Later it becomes natural, and no attention is paid to it. Let your worship and your prayer be a fresh miracle every day to you. Only such worship, performed from the heart, with enthusiasm, is acceptable. The function of prayer is not to establish a routine. It is to establish a relationship with the God who is in relationship with us always. The function of times of prayer, then, is not to have us say prayers. It is to enable our lives to become a prayer outside of prayer, to become pure of heart, one with God, centered in the truth that is truth, and the power that is power, and the love that is love. The function of prayer, she goes on to say, is to bring us into touch with ourselves as well. To the ancients, tears of compunction were the sign of a soul that knew its limits, faced its sins, accepted its needs, and lived in hope. That's what Benedict wants for those who live the prayer life he describes. Not long hours spent in chapel, but a lifetime lived in the Spirit of God, because the chapel time was swift and strong, quick and deep, brief but soul-shaking. Prayer is to be short and pure, he says, not long and tedious, not long and majestic, not long and grand. No, Benedictine prayer is to be short and substantial and real. The rest of life is to be impelled by it. To live in church, as far as Benedictine is concerned, is not necessarily a sign of holiness. To live always under the influence of the scriptures and to live in the breath of the Spirit is. There are some who would look at the Rule of Benedict and be surprised that it does not contain a discourse on prayer, instead of simply the description of the form of prayer. The fact is, of course, that Benedict does not theorize about the nature and purpose of prayer. All he does, with every choice he makes of the Alleluias and Jesus prayer and Psalms, etc., is to demonstrate it and to steep us in it until the theory becomes the thing. I hope in prayer, the theory for you, especially during this time of isolation for many of us, I hope the theory can become the thing. Bless you. See you Sunday.